The fashion industry is often framed as harmless self-expression, creativity, or personal choice. Yet beneath its aesthetic surface lies a system that systematically strains, dysregulates, and exhausts the human nervous system. Unlike industries that cause visible physical harm, fashion operates through subtler mechanisms: identity pressure, chronic comparison, accelerated obsolescence, and manufactured dissatisfaction. The damage it creates does not end when profit is made. It lingers, reshaping perception, desire, and emotional regulation long after the transaction is complete. The human nervous system evolved for relatively stable social environments, slow change, and limited comparison. Fashion disrupts this balance by imposing constant novelty and evaluation. Trends rotate rapidly, visual stimuli are relentless, and social cues are saturated with signals about worth, relevance, and belonging. Each exposure triggers micro-responses: alertness, anxiety, anticipation, and judgment. Over time, these small activations accumulate into chronic nervous system arousal. The body learns to remain vigilant, not for survival, but for relevance. This state is not acute stress, but low-grade, continuous activation, which is far more damaging because it becomes normalized. Fashion does not simply sell clothing. It sells the idea that the self must be continually updated. Appearance becomes a project under permanent review. This creates internalized surveillance. Individuals monitor themselves as if from the outside, scanning for flaws, trends missed, or signals of social inadequacy. Neurologically, this trains the brain towards self-criticism and hyper-awareness. The nervous system adapts by staying alert to social threat, even in safe environments. Importantly, no purchase resolves this tension. Clothing may temporarily soothe insecurity, but the underlying vigilance remains, and often intensifies once the relief fades. Each fashion purchase offers a brief reward: novelty, confidence, or perceived belonging. This activates dopamine pathways similar to other behavioral addictions. But because trends are externally controlled and rapidly invalidated, the reward decays quickly. Repeated cycles of anticipation and disappointment recalibrate the nervous system. Baseline satisfaction drops. Desire sharpens. What once felt exciting becomes necessary just to feel neutral. The system learns craving without fulfillment. Crucially, the industry provides no mechanism for recovery, no restoration of contentment, no closure, no stable end state. While profit is extracted at the peak of stimulation, the crash is left to the individual. Whether through advertising, public spaces, or digital platforms, individuals are constantly exposed to curated images of others. The nervous system interprets comparison as social ranking, which historically carried survival implications. Repeated exposure without resolution creates persistent stress responses: shame, envy, inadequacy, or pressure to perform. Over time, the nervous system becomes conditioned to equate visibility with worth and absence with failure. Even opting out can produce anxiety, as non-participation itself becomes a signal of exclusion. Unlike healthcare or even education, the fashion industry has no responsibility for long-term outcomes. Once a product is sold, the psychological and neurological consequences are externalized. There is no system to restore nervous system balance, rebuild self-trust, or undo learned dissatisfaction. In fact, healing would undermine the business model. A regulated nervous system, one grounded in sufficiency, identity stability, and reduced comparison, would consume less. Therefore, the industry depends on leaving the damage unresolved. The consumer exits the transaction slightly more anxious, slightly less satisfied, and slightly more primed for the next purchase. Clothes wear out, but conditioning does not. Long after garments are discarded, the nervous system retains the lessons that self-worth is provisional, that satisfaction is temporary, and that visibility must be maintained. These patterns influence not only consumption, but relationships, work, and self-perception. This is the quiet harm of fashion, not dramatic breakdown, but permanent low-level dysregulation, a nervous system trained to chase relief rather than inhabit stability. Fashion does not merely sell clothing. It extracts value from neurological imbalance and leaves the cost embedded in the body long after the trend has passed.